Good morning, everyone. Yeah, yeah. The first article for the day. This is about the homework that I want you to do. Great hornbill sighting in Elimala's parks renewed calls for biodiversity conservation. In articles like this, whenever you're getting biodiversity related articles, what are the things that you need to observe? First, it's about the geography. Okay. And second, when you're talking about a specific animal or a bird or any living entity in that region, what are the conditions that you will learn from the geography and the climate part, flora and fauna? You have to understand the relation, right? So you need to see what are the important things that you need to note from this. The conditions as well as the geographical parameters that will facilitate the adaptation. So you have to observe the trend of UPSC prelims. In prelims you will get questions on animal behavior or bird behavior. So when you're talking about something like Central Asian flyway, if you don't know what Central Asian flyway is, please Google this and understand about this Central Asian flyway. One more point you have to observe is whenever we are talking about birds, usually you will find this in the Siberia to Africa region. And along the pathway, whatever wetlands are there, the birds stop in those regions and they become important for conservation. So, to anyone who does not have a context of what a wetland is, go back and read the official definition. In 2018 GS3, there is a direct question in mains. Define a wetland. You will get definitional questions like that also. So what is the homework related to the first article for the day? Where do you find this great hornbill? What are the places, protected areas mentioned in the article? Next, what are the geographical conditions which are responsible for the adaptation of this bird? Observe the trend. Is it only found in the Western Ghats region? Is it found elsewhere as well? See, you will notice similarities in two different regions, one in the northeast and Western Ghats, because they have more or less similar climatic conditions in terms of rainfall. The geography might slightly vary. The temperature might slightly vary. So it's in reading articles like this, it's a combination of geography, climatology. I mean, the climatology part, the conservation part, the basics of biodiversity, national parks, protected areas, environmental legislations. It's a combination of all of these basics that will help you remember articles like this. If you read them in isolation and by heart, the likelihood of you forgetting is almost 90%. Or you will get confused. You should not, base your memory in rote learning in questions like this. You cannot remember minute details in a long run. After a point of time, it just becomes unsustainable. Because you will get continuous facts day after day, day after day. How will you remember if you don't logically structure them in a certain context. The absence of context is what makes questions like this very difficult. So I hope you got the context now. Birds or animals or even plants, they survive in certain climatic conditions. So when you hear the word endemism, endemic species, it means that its adaptation is very poor. It can only survive in that region. It cannot survive elsewhere. So whenever you are reading articles like this, observe if that species is endemic, and such kind of species are usually very endangered and they need special conservation potential. And you will notice in small pockets, whenever you witness that there is endemism there, historically, if tribes are residing in those regions, they worship that plant or animal because it becomes so central to their lifestyle to maintain the balance in that ecosystem. I want you to observe this the next time you are reading something like that. It will tell you the relation between the local population and the flora and fauna of that region. So climatology, faith, flora and fauna, environment, everything are interlinked. It's like a system. The next time you're reading articles like this, observe that trend. Note down the fact in that context. So go back, see the rainfall of that region, the climatic conditions there, the reasons for the climatic conditions there, the soil there, what flora and fauna you'll observe there. That is good enough for you to move on. Okay. Now, these three articles, 1, 2 and this ECI, we have already discussed all of this. Okay. So quickly put, what are the things that you need to focus on? This particular ECI does not have unfettered powers. You will have a lot of information in this article. One, you will have the case law which is responsible or which tells the limitation of ECI. The Mohinder Singh Gill case. Okay. Anyway, let's start from the beginning. Just like a quick recap, what is happening in Bihar. Okay. So there is a special intensive revision of the electoral rules. Where does ECI get its power from? So from the Representation of People Act. Okay. There are some associated rules with the Representation of People Act as well. Article 326. What is Article 326? Yesterday's homework. Please be a bit loud and clear. Article 326. What is 324? You should not be ambiguous when a homework is given to you. Very straightforward. We are talking about a constitutional body here. Article 324. What about it? Article 324, Election Commission. Is it about its power, existence, purpose? What about it? Article 324, 325, 326, all of them are about Election Commission in some or the other way. What exactly? Not study? Go back and do the homework. Article 324 to Article 326. Overall, elections. If you did not understand the purpose of the homework, etc., it's daily training of your mind to think in a certain context. You are training your long-term memory to be able to take better judgment of the questions in prelims. That skill of judgment is not something that comes with quick memory or memorization of facts. It is a long-term training that is going to help you. Only that will help you. Please understand this. Take a look at this article. Article 326 talks about universal adult franchise. For which elections? What elections are covered in Article 326? This can be asked in the exam, right? When you're talking about universal adult franchise, is it for any specific bodies, legislative bodies? What does the Constitution say in this regard? Please go to the Bare Act. Read it verbatim. This is the homework you need to do today. And then RPA 1950 and 1951. This difference also I asked you to have a look previously. What is the difference between Representation of People Act 1950 and 1951? There are two acts. Why do we have two acts? What is the intention of both these acts? What problem are we solving by bifurcating the same RPA into two different laws? Why not club them together? Why is it like that? Before and after elections? Because the intent of those two laws are different. And the machinery that is required to keep this running, the intent of both those laws running is different. That is why you have two different laws. So this whole electoral revision issue, under which law does it talk about? Like which 50 or 51? These are all already the prerequisite works that I asked you to do. Please go back and do that. Please take down the homework, everybody. If you're not taking this seriously, again you will have the same loop again and again. I'm reminding on a daily basis. What does section 21 of RPA talk about? It speaks of 4 stages of revision: before the election of Lok Sabha and Assembly, before each by-election, on the direction of the Election Commission in any year, and a special revision for a constituency or a part of the constituency. All revisions except the 4th one are done with a reference to a qualifying date, which under section 14 is the first day of January. See, the whole problem is there is no rule of law in this. What is the purpose of election? To make people represented in that democracy. And if you are excluding people, by default you are excluding people, because if you are saying that if you don't produce the document, I will exclude you. It's against the spirit of democracy itself. The very purpose with which a constitutional body is existing there, and the very purpose for which the rules are created to facilitate a so-called free and fair election, if that election is excluding people, it is neither free nor fair. The very purpose for the existence itself is in question. And to support this argument, you need to come up with laws that are already existing, that is RPA 1950, section 14, section 21 and the rules therein, and look at the ground reality, what is happening. So this is what the rules are saying, and this is what is happening on the ground. Is it fair? It's up for you to decide that. If you're making a judgment, if you're making an opinion, you need to look at a cause-effect relationship between any aspect. Logic means there is a causal effect. Causal effect means you will identify the cause. And you will identify the impact or the effect. Whenever you are asked to think logically, it is with this idea. The methodology you use to analyze, you always say we have to analyze PYQs, we have to analyze this article. What do you mean by analysis? Firstly, the most basic funda of analysis is having the ability to identify the cause and having the ability to analyze or extrapolate the impact it will create. That clear communication to the examiner that this is the cost, this is the impact, is what is expected from you. In this whole Bihar election issue, what is happening? Election Commission is revising the electoral rolls and is asking poor migrant labor who do not have enough money, who are already suffering intersectional issues like casteism, poverty, disability, migration, lack of proper housing conditions, sanitation, all this multi-dimensionally poor. What do you mean by multi-dimensionally poor? Multi-dimensional poverty index. In India it is given by, what is the framework used for what is the framework used by Niti Aayog for creating this multidimensional poverty index? On what metrics are they deciding? Do they have a database? How is poverty calculated in India? Official poverty lines. See, these are the things which are basics. Again and again I've been asking the same work for you to do. Go back and please do this. What is Tendulkar Committee? What is Rangarajan Committee? What is the difference between these approaches and Niti Aayog's multidimensional poverty index? How is it related to there is a difference between the metrics of Niti Aayog multidimensional poverty index and the international level multidimensional poverty index. Who comes up with this at a global level? In India, who comes up with this? These are the basics that you need to always have on your fingertips when you're talking about poverty. These are repeated multiple times across different previous year questions. And these basics, if they're not on your fingertips, you are again going to make a mistake. Anyone who claims that they've done PYQs and are not aware of these differences did not understand the nature of this exam. At least now, today's homework, please note it down. These are the basics. I don't see a lot of people noting it down. You are not even aware of what is being discussed in the class. So at least when you are coming up with a notebook, whatever is discussed, please note down. At least note down the questions that I'm asking you to do so that you go back and do that work. Okay? Please note down. Please note down these questions. In the context of poverty, what is multidimensional poverty index? What is the Tendulkar Committee on Estimation of Poverty? Rangarajan Committee. What is per capita income of India? These basics. Per capita income. What is the meaning of per capita income? Take the total money available in India, let's say X, and divide it by the population. It gives the per capita income. Why this is not a good metric? Because you take out of this total money, take the wealth of the top 10% and calculate only 90%, the per capita income will fall down. Okay. Then what is Gini coefficient? These are the basics that you need to know. Gini coefficient is talking about inequality. Please take this very seriously. In tomorrow's class, when I'm asking you these questions, if you do not have an answer, you're again doing the same mistake. Mistakes can happen to anyone. But all this requires is 1 hour of your time every day. Because if we are strengthening your basics, I already told you through newspaper classes, through the work that we're doing, if you're able to spend for the first 4 months, if you're able to spend, you're spending 1 hour here, spend 1 more hour after going back, doing the work that you're supposed to do. If you had done that those who are attending from the month of May, if you had done that by now, you would have finished the basics of IR, social justice, polity, fundamental rights, everything. I gave you a structure, I gave you a homework. It's up for you to do. Now we were discussing about elections from 2 days. And even today you are not sure what is Article 326. That is not acceptable, guys. Please improve your, presence. Just don't attend it for namesake. Please utilize this. Okay. I can give the homework. I can send. Instead of giving the homework, I can just deliver information. But where is your engagement? This exam cannot be cleared without your engagement, right? Please try to do the work. It's very simple. Asking the right questions is also important, and that work is done. We are asking the right questions. All you have to do is go back and search so that it sits in your mind in a context. Clear? What is the first homework that I gave? About Great Hornbill, the geography, the environment, observing the important national parks, conservation areas in that region. Second, what is ECI's role? Article 324, 325, 326, BEAR Act, the differences. Then we were talking about poverty in a context of Bihar, because most of the people in Bihar, more than 50% of Bihar population is multidimensionally poor. In such a kind of a state, you are asking people to produce documentation where people do not have access to education. So I'm not saying that we have to not carry out activities like this. Yes, having updated electoral rolls is important, but we need to plan better. We need to start early. If there is no document available with that person, instead of excluding that person, you have to take some extra effort to figure out how to include them, because that is the spirit of democracy. And that is not happening. That is why you need to understand the concept of poverty. Many days ago, in poverty alleviation schemes, I told you about the importance of socio-economic caste census. How is it different from census, normal census? Because many poverty alleviation schemes use this socio-economic caste census. So interlinkages between these concepts is what sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. Always, this is a relative exam. Always remember, you have to be having that extra edge where basics are on your fingertips. Your ability to react or respond quickly in the face of any challenge comes with daily training. It doesn't come with better notes or better lectures. It comes with better participation. Just like how we say, even when there are institutions in a democracy, unless and until people participate, democracy doesn't function well. Participatory democracy. We're talking about the same thing. You have everything that is required except your participation. Anyway, so read this article with this intent. So there are certain procedures, there are certain laws, there is a certain cutoff date that you need to respect according to the rules. None of this are respected in the present scheme of things, and that is why it is against the spirit of the Constitution. And even the rule book says that Election Commission of India cannot have this kind of uncontrolled, unchecked powers. And in this case, we are talking about the 1978 Supreme Court judgment in Mohinder Singh Gill versus Chief Election Commissioner case. Okay? While enjoying enormous powers under Article 324, the ECI is responsible to the rule of law and should be amenable to the norms of natural justice as per Supreme Court. This article is very important for you in GS 2. There might be a question this year in mains and also in prelims. Whatever themes that appear in mains will follow up in the next year prelims exam. I don't know if you observed this trend, but there is a possibility that this question can again appear in one way or the other in this upcoming prelims, or maybe the year after that. You never know. But do not ignore even mains questions for your prelims. The direction of the mains questions, what is being tested, the conflict, depending on that conflict also prelims questions can be framed. For example, 324 ECI rules, what are the qualifying dates, etc. These are from current events. They will not expect you to by heart exact section numbers, etc., but they will test the underlying logic. The present issue is there needs to be a rule of law in saying that you have to exclude or include people. There are certain rules. What UPSC is expecting from you is not awareness of some logical trick or elimination technique. What they're expecting is awareness of the provision that for rule of law to take place in the case of elections, Election Commission is guided by some rules made by the Parliament, and it cannot be arbitrary. Awareness of the single fact is what will help you in prelims examination. If you are still stuck in the school mode where you will have a note, by heart it, and from that questions will be asked, no, that is not how UPSC prelims questions are asked. So change your mindset as quickly as possible. By awareness of a fact, you can use that awareness to logically exclude an option elsewhere. Indirectly questions will be framed. Okay? This is like a puzzle where you have to take decisions based on limited information. Your mind can accept only limited information. If you are not responding in that direction and you are continuously dumping more and more information, you will not have the mental energy to process that information, think and react in the prelims exam. So train your mind right from day one with minimal information and more cross questioning. Don't waste your mental energy only for memory without understanding. Okay? Why am I telling all of this? Because there are some people who are yet to change their methodology. I'm noticing that, and this is slight warning. If you don't fix your ways right from now, it will be very difficult from December when you're preparing for prelims. This one and this one, it's more or less the same thing. Okay, what is being criticized here? There is no rule of law, democracy is being flouted, there is no respect for the plight of migrants. Why is it antithetical to the idea of democracy? All of this are fine. Okay, moving on. In this article, again, this is both important for internal security, defense, IR, and even for prelims. See, in IR angle, you will have organizations. And we are talking about a specific organization called SIPRI, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Okay. So when you're talking about international relations, I'll give you a framework of thought. The concept of deterrence. What is deterrence? When you have a weapon, your opponent is scared that this guy has a weapon, so I will not attack this. That fear is what keeps us safe. If there is nothing that will scare the enemy away, that guy, that enemy can take us for a ride. That is the logic behind arms race. So there is a big controversy. Who is going to get the largest benefit out of wars? The weapon industry. 2025 saw an unprecedented 10%, almost 10% rise. A 10% rise in how money is spent. Your budgets are limited. If you're spending on weapons, what will take a toss? Obviously the social welfare expenditure. Because your money is limited. You can't have unlimited money. And in a highly weaponized world, coupled with deglobalization, coupled with climate change, coupled with AI, where is the world heading? This is the moral debate we need to have. 955 billion. That is the amount spent by United States on defense. As a percentage of GDP, Saudi Arabia spends the highest. It is given here somewhere 7.3. Yes, 7.3% of GDP is spent on defense. How much is India spending? India is roughly around, if you are saying, I don't remember the figures exactly here. Let's say it's 1/11 of US budget. Somewhere around 70-80 billion dollars every year. It's still a lot. These statistics are very important for you to substantiate. You can get two kinds of questions in prelims. About CIPRI, the order of people spending, countries spending money on weapons. First in absolute terms, two in percentage of GDP. It's given here. These can be asked. Firstly, you will have countries like US, which are spending a lot. But as a percentage of GDP, you have Saudi Arabia, 7.3%, Poland, 4.2%, US, 3.4%, and the rest of the world, 1.3 to 2.6%. Okay? It is not even 955, it is 997 billion. India is at 86 billion. Okay, updated number. 86 billion. So roughly 1/11. 1/10 or 1/11. We are right there. Okay. So this entire article is about what will be the effect. So when I asked you to logically analyze, when you are talking about the effect, there should be a cause, right? So you can get a question whenever you are reading a heading like this. The first question you should be asking is, what are the factors? What are the factors that will drive this military expenditure? And those factors should be neatly organized. Economic factors, social factors, economic, social, geopolitical. Most of the wars happen because of geopolitical conflicts. Again, they happen because of economic threats. The whole power game is linked to money or identity. When two countries have similar amount of money, they need to find a new higher version, higher alternative to capture power, and that is identity. This identity can come from any common factor. It can be religion, it can be some personality cult, it can be some ideology. Cold War happened because of identity, which is again linked to economics. Identity is all about power control. The idea of power. Power gives access. But without people accepting, that power, let's say there is a government. A government got access to resources to control it. But to sustain it, they need legitimacy. Right? Legitimacy means acceptance from people. Identity gives that legitimacy. Power ensures access, but identity ensures legitimacy. Combine them together, you will get an ideology-driven world where geopolitical tensions occur. What is Arab and Israel issue? Identity. For what? Power. How? Through identity. Why? To control economic resources, or in that case, it's a real estate fight. Largely put, it's a real estate fight for a piece of land, right? Every conflict is about these only. You will have a fight either for control of resources or control of narratives. Two things. And for that, you will continue to spend money. And in a world where population is growing, where conflicts are growing, you will have military expenditure, because it is all the more difficult to control power. And all the more difficult in a multipolar world where one country's dominance has waned away. You have multiple power centers. Previously, USSR, US. USSR was out. It is just US. Unipolar world. Then from 2008, USA, China. After that, multiple power centers. BRICS. India came into the picture. Russia came into the picture. Brazil came into the picture. African growth story is also something that we have to still keep in mind. And this is how you are witnessing a power struggle in a globalized world. Across the world, you are witnessing the right-wing governments growing, where extremism is growing. Wherever you see a right-wing conservative government, you will witness a rise in the military expenditure. The military-industrial complex, the nexus between bureaucrats, politicians, and entrepreneurs in this space is only going to rise. A case to the point being the foundation of a party from Elon Musk. Can Elon Musk ever become a president? Why? He's not born in US. Can we say that in the case of India? Can people who are born outside India, can they be a part of Indian government, or can they become the president or the prime minister? Right. The difference is because of the concept. Because let's say, for example, at the time of partition, you have any political leader who's born and raised in either Pakistan or Bangladesh, and they decide to become a part of Indian government, they will naturally be discarded or removed from the process. India's identity as a land that absorbs migrants. People always say US is the land of opportunities, culture, etc. But the very fact that you are given a political, not just an identity, a political power, even if you are not born in India, talks about India's tolerance. Anyway, coming back. So, cause effect. So, when you are supposed to analyze an article like this, don't just look at it from one dimension of how much money is spent. That is good enough for prelims. But you are preparing for both prelims, mains, also interview. You need the ability to form an informed opinion. How will you get that? Through a cause effect or cause impact analysis framework. What are the drivers of conflict in today's world? Rising tensions because of identity politics, old tensions flaring up, geopolitical tensions, multiple theaters of conflict like the Middle East or West Asia. You have Central Asian regions which are under conflict. Then you have the China-US conflict, resurgence of Cold War. There are talks about the Third World War, proxy warfare, non-state actors, AI, autonomous weapons, drones. All of this together is making the world very complicated. And it is exactly for this reason you need more military spending as a deterrence. This is how you have to how we are supposed to read this article. Take a look at this. NIA to submit progress report on killing of women 2024. So what are you expected to know? What is NIA? In your GS3, you have various security agencies. Police is a state subject. Apart from the state police, you have various other security agencies. The security architecture, security governance architecture of this country for internal security. You have two, if you divide the entire security issues, external, internal. This is armed forces plus intelligence agencies like RAW. For internal security, you have for land, for water, two different set of agencies. Land-based security agencies, one, state police. Then you have various other organizations at central level. You have CBI, you have NIA, you have 7 paramilitary forces. What are they? CAPF, BSF, etc. So this will be studied in the basics, internal security basics. But when you are reading reports like this, you will be confused. Why is NIA giving that? Why not CBI? Why not state police? What is the mandate of NIA? Under what law are they getting this power? This is a prelims theme. Criminal justice system and awareness of law is the evolving theme in prelims. So when you look at articles like this, which will almost be ignored, I want you to have an awareness of the basic law and apply that awareness in this context. I'm not expecting you to remember this random news. There's no point in picking up news. Use this as a gym tool, just like how you go to a gym, pick up a weight and lift it to train your muscle. Pick up this news article, use the NIA as a trigger to ask the right question. Since you might not be able to figure out the right question, I'm telling you the question directly. Under what law NIA gets its mandate? Why is NIA involved in submitting progress report when you have organizations like Human Rights Commission? Okay? What are the basics that you need to know? For security, you have external security and internal security. GS3, you have internal security. External security is about defense, armed forces. You have CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, then you have Air Force, Navy, and Army. You got a question on ranks of Army personnel last year, 2024. So you might get a question in this area also in the future. So right now, start thinking on those lines. Okay? Okay, look at this. Your basic polity. Parliamentary committees. Why is Public Accounts Committee telling the Directorate General of Civil Aviation to hold a complete safety audit. Isn't this supposed to be the work of CAG? What is the difference here? Okay, to address this question, you need to have a look at the powers of CAG and powers of Public Account Committee, and then read this article. Okay? Is CAG taking up safety audit or financial audit? Just have a look at this article after you go back. This one development will keep in mind. The biggest complaint about gig economy is that it does not ensure welfare to its workers. So Uber said that it will come up with some mechanism which will take care of the workers it has. Some kind of PF, pension, insurance, social security. Okay? That is venues. Okay, this one. National Institute of Plant Genome Research, NIPGR. Whole funda of this article. The basics that you have to know, or how you are going to link this article to our syllabus. In GS3, you have science and technology. In science and technology, one of the subtopic is biotechnology. In biotechnology, you are expected to know the basics of cell. Okay? In cell, you have genetic material. This genetic material is like your ID card. Okay? This genetic material is like your ID card, the color of your skin, the color of your eyes, everything in human body is directly linked to this identity card. Do something to that identity card, your whole identity will change. Let's say you are described as someone with a brown skin. This is the description of most Indians. Something is tweaked at the DNA level. That identity might change, the description might change. There are two things that you have to know here, the basics. Presence of a gene. Gene means the DNA or RNA or whatever genetic material you have, and its expression are not the same. Let's say there is some DNA material. The presence of a certain gene doesn't mean it will get expressed. What do I mean by this? Let's say, like a story, even if you're not from a science background, I'm trying to tell this. If, let's say, on a piece of paper, there is some black spot. Okay? This black spot is because your eye has the ability to capture that wavelength. Okay? There can be, some other spots here, but they are not in the range of our human eye to be observed. There might be some microorganisms on that paper, but you don't know unless and until you put a microscope there. Having a gene is not equal to it being expressed. Means it is lying dormant, just like that. Once it is activated, it will get expressed. This is one kind of gene editing. Then you have tools like CRISPR. This is like a scissor. This will be used, a part of this will be cut because it is not needed. That is CRISPR. Okay. This is another kind of gene editing. Doing something to activate a dormant region is one way. The whole concept of gene editing and biotechnology is done with an intent to make life better. We are not interested in the science part of it completely. We are not indulging in learning about cell biology and the research therein as a scientist. We are supposed to be aware of the basics so that we appreciate news like this. We understand news like this. So, the basics that you need to know is CRISPR and gene expression and the difference therein. In this case, we are going for the concept where gene expression is taken into consideration but not gene editing. You are not adding a foreign particle, foreign DNA. See, one more way of this CRISPR technology, once that is cut, you bring in foreign particle and attach it. Some other organism's DNA you bring and attach it here, so that it becomes much more efficient. BT cotton, for example, because of the ability of an organism to resist pests, that DNA material is taken and put in the cotton seed so that we are pest resistant, getting pest resistant seed, variety of cotton. That is not how it is done here, because it can have environmental impact. Biodiversity might be affected. Just like how in the pandemic, COVID, it spread from one person to another. Just like how in bird flu, one bird gets infected and the entire population of that poultry farm gets wiped out. If something happens to this edited gene and there is no other gene that can resist this, it will get wiped out. So biodiversity is the insurance that is available for epidemics. That is why it is important to respect diversity. The beauty of nature is this diversity of thought, of living materials, kind of living, etc. Because we are optimized like that. There is beauty in this chaos, there is beauty in this complexity, and we need to respect that if you don't understand it. Okay? Anyway, coming back. With this basics, I'll help you understand this article. One of the biggest problems for plants is phosphorus requirement. You need to put fertilizers for phosphorus to be absorbed by the plant. But in the present scheme of things, for rice plants, not more than 15 to 20% of the fertilizer that is being used will be taken up, or even not more than that, if I'm not wrong, 15 to 20%. If we can edit the gene which is responsible for mobilizing this phosphorus from the fertilizer, we can take more. Plants, as in plants can take up more phosphorus, which will improve the yield. Clear? That is exactly what we are doing. I'm not trying to overcomplicate this article. This much information is enough. You are improving the gene expression to improve the phosphorus uptake, which will improve the yield by as much as 40%. That is the funda. Clear? That's it for the day.